I'm Father Robert Balaser, the digital Jesuit, host of This Week in Enterprise Tech here in Orlando, Florida for Enterprise Connect 2017. I have the privilege, the honor of sitting next to Mr. Bryan Martin. He is the chairman and CTO of 8x8. Bryan, thank you very much for speaking with us.
Yeah, absolutely. Good morning.
Now, of course, I have to ask, what is 8x8 doing at Enterprise Connect?
Yeah, so we've announced the world's first communications cloud, and it's combining unified communications with team collaboration interoperability, so the ability to tie a bunch of rooms together, make teams very productive, with contact center, with analytics. And I think it's a game-changing announcement because we're taking a completely different approach to how teams are working in the enterprise.
Now, this has become a very crowded space, this as a service, UC, EC, everything as a service. What differentiates 8x8? I mean, of course, this is unique, but what would you do to sell this to an IT manager? What is the distinction of 8x8 service?
Yeah, so we own almost every single underlying technology in our platform. We've been developing this over the years, hundreds of patents, and that really makes a difference when you start to talk about how users are going to seamlessly navigate across these different applications. I think the ease of experience, it helps the training, it helps onboarding. As you go globally, it starts bridging the language barriers if things are just easy and simple to figure out how to use. And I think that's a difference from a lot of the people who are jumping in with a point solution and then they've got to integrate a bunch of other parts to it, and you don't end up with that same experience.
Experience seems to be the trend of the show. Every vendor out there who's worth their salt is talking about how the technology is sort of fading into the background. It's important, but you're not selling the technology, you're selling the experience. The ability both to be managed and to have users be able to navigate the system without coaching. What makes a good experience?
So I think the reason you're hearing about experience is adoption at a large business actually occurs from the bottom up. It's an individual team or group or manager who says, hey, I've got something I need to accomplish. And so I think for the person at that level, there's no IT involved, there's no corporate buying decision, there's no contract or commitment. They just need to be able to take something off of a website, download it, and start using it. Run an app on your mobile phone and start using it. And I think that's what's driving it. And you know, it either works or it doesn't. We came out with a new approach to contact center, announced last week, what we call Contact Now, which again, takes contact center and positions it for a team to be able to adopt it, set it up, and start using it within a minute. And that's a very different approach to the 20 plus years of cloud contact center, where it would take weeks, sometimes months, to actually transition off your old big iron into the cloud. Now it's being done in minutes.
Right. It's that approach of starting with the goal and then finding the solution that fits the goal, rather than starting with the technology and find a problem that it solves.
Correct. Absolutely correct.
Let's dive a little bit deeper. I'd like to talk from the perspective of an IT manager who's looking at his next deployment.
Yes.
What are the things that I don't know?
Yeah.
What are the pitfalls, the things that are going to just bog down my deployment that 8x8 might be able to solve before they even happen?
Yeah. So actually, it's very, very simple to have that conversation and actually go onboard that project. We did a 4,000 seat deployment, 17 sites, 5 countries, which included 2 contact centers. It was done in 3 weeks. It made the IT team look like champions of the business. And so what I think the IT manager or team has to get over is the perception that I have to do this thing lock, stock, and barrel. If I hear rip and replace one more time this week, or if I only had a nickel for every time I've heard it, you know, that perception that I've got to unwind all the complexity that's literally through decades of layering on-premise software, equipment, acquisitions you've done, which brought in a different solution. There's a lot of complexity out there. And I think there's a fear that that's a very complex problem to touch. And so I think it's a perception. I don't think it's reality. I think once we're actually starting up and we actually take the right chunk, the piecemeal, the bite-sized approach to start deploying this stuff, that IT manager says, oh, this works great, let's go faster. And that's what we're seeing in the marketplace, especially with these large deployments.
You mentioned rip and replace, and of course,
You
that's
said it again.
That's the bane of every deployment. This idea that, oh my goodness, I'm going to have to tear out a system that's in use as I'm deploying the new one, and of course, we don't want that. And every vendor out here is promising that there's a way to connect platform A to platform B so that you can do this incrementally. You don't have to have that ridiculous shutdown time where it is literally a do or die situation. How does 8x8 accomplish that? So as someone is replacing an on-premise system that is a legacy holdout from maybe a generation ago, 2 generations ago, how do I avoid that rip and replace scenario?
So we take a completely open approach to our platform. And again, I think owning those technologies enables us to control that. I think if you're integrating external components, maybe you don't have that same flexibility, openness of APIs and so forth. Being able to interoperate, and I think this is a big trend that's emerging at the show, is the difference between siloed, the typical walled garden, and some of the biggest internet giant players in the market are still saying, no, you're going to be very comfortable deploying me across all of your users. And in reality, I think our approach is pick what works for your business, get that solution in place, make sure it interoperates with the rest of your back office, make sure you've got the API support, the integrations. If it comes to it, we'll do professional services, but I even think that's becoming a 4-letter word, especially for IT teams that are already stretched with budgets and resources. And I think that open platform approach really opens up flexibility to do that piecemeal deployment, which makes that IT team's job even easier.
Bryan, thank you very much for speaking with us. Thank you for spending the time.
Absolutely.
If you could you tell our audience if they're now piqued by what 8x8 might be able to do with their unique solution, where should they go?
Yeah, so you should go to www.8x8.com. All of our services are available on that site, all of our downloads, some great testimonials and white papers. And I'd also point you to sameroom.io, which is our unique approach to team collaboration and interoperability.
Thank you again for your time.
Absolutely.
And thank you for your time. If you want to see more from Enterprise Connect 2017, stay tabbed because the day's not over.